Season 2, Amsterdam, Workspaces and People. We're meeting with Space Encounters. Actually, Judith introduced us. She was working together with them on a project. And it's an architectural company, and I'm very excited. Can't wait to see what they think about workspaces and people. Probably more about workspaces than people, but let's see.
So the first thing we did was take out all the walls in between.
This is where the musical heart of Amsterdam is ticking. That's this place, and we're a part of that.
The more free you are to move around, the more creative you get.
Workspaces and People Season 2 here on YouTube.
So is this how you get in?
Hey, welcome. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Stijn.
Hi, Katinka, how are you?
Hi.
MP.
Hi, Stijn. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice. Are you having a party or? No.
Yeah, it's Friday. So.
It's Friday? Yeah, so we'll stay a little longer. We'll grab a beer afterwards.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Would you like some water or wine?
That's actually also really nice after a long day. Why not? Yes, I also. No, I mean, why don't I mean if you?
Wine.
Yeah.
Take one.
Yeah, then
definitely.
show beer, wine, whatever is. Well, I'm also happy with the beer. Like.
We have everything open.
No, we have good wine. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, thank you so much for making some time super spontaneously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is it red or white wine?
White wine. So yeah, we here in the how do you say Keimzelle, like right? You understand that we're in the Keimzelle, where it almost always starts, unless it's too late and the building is already constructed. Do you then also take care of interior or things, or is it really the constructing part?
No, our office is actually an architect office, but we do actually what I think is unique for in the market from our office is that we are mostly involved from interior to architecture or other way around, from architecture to interior. So we do what we call in German Gesamtkunstwerk.
Yeah.
And Jules is one of our first projects with integrated green really well, and it went over all the world.
Yeah.
And what is nice about that is that we gave actually an old factory really a new function in that, and that we said, okay, what is said was was a bit of a gritty area, the not so nice area anymore.
Yeah.
And,
I remember 10 years ago when I studied here, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not so.
No, we would go there for parties and late night things, but nothing else.
Exactly, yeah.
No, they bought it. They bought
always
it.
stolen.
They bought it exactly at the right moment.
Yeah.
When we were there at first, it was really run down still, and I think when it was finished 1 year later, it started to it ignited the gentrification.
But they asked us a nice. We won a competition which they sent out, but they asked us, I think, a nice question. Their slogan is positive design, in the way how they treat their pushchairs, but also they want to give something positive back to the world. And so what we tried to do is say, okay, we're gonna give you an interior which is impact on the exterior. That was our goal to do. So that's why we have to find. We have to make 3 really big gardens, which actually took up too much space because we
No space for people to work.
Yeah, exactly. That's always a thing, that's the square meter. But we said, okay, this is going to give you so much quality and exterior feel because it's really connected to outside with the ventilation and stuff like that. So it's an interclimate garden. So in the winter it's a bit chilly and in the summer it's a bit warm. But it has then this outside feeling as well. And of course that's functionally, but by opening up the facade with the tilted windows in there, it's visible in daytime and in nighttime very much.
Yeah, the good life.
Yeah. Well, the employees of Jules, they actually said it tricks you into thinking you're not working.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what we try to do there.
Yeah.
I think if you really ask people where they want to be, it's more outside than inside. But at the meantime, we make these offices more closed and with not enough daylight, with low ceilings. So actually, we made 3 greenhouses in Jules, but what we actually want to do is make a whole forest there. So actually, the greenhouses are even a
Do you have
compromise.
pictures? Like, is there pictures we can see or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah. I can show it on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much
Yeah.
for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So I'll show you a bit of the project.
Yeah.
Actually,
Maybe it's good to show first the...
how it was.
Yeah.
So this is how it was.
Yeah.
I must admit we dramatized it a bit by making it black and white.
Yeah.
But it really was like this. So
we throw
graffiti,
the garbage in the middle of the...
Of course, you spray
yeah.
the windows.
yeah. So here we have the after photos.
Yeah, maybe it's good to explain also the floor plan first.
Yeah, maybe I'll show you the section because this shows actually everything. So what you see is the building consists of a large hall, which is here, which is not connected to the street. And there's a very generic office, which is connected to the street. You just saw it, it's not really interesting. So So what we wanted to do was connect the hall, which is spatially more interesting, to the street. So the first thing we did was take out all the walls in between. What we then did was place the greenhouses under one of the existing skylights, which you see here. In this way, all the areas which are around, they have the green as a backdrop for their daily routines.
Yeah, and what is I think good to mention is that you see it is positioned under the light streets, under these roofs. And at the photo on the left, you already see we opened up the north side or south side. Normally it's closed because they don't want to have sunlight inside a machine hallway, only the light from the north. But we made new glass roofs there so that the sun could really penetrate the inside of the building. And then you see it's quite dramatically nice when the sun is getting onto the green inside the area. So it's not only that it's good for the green, but it's only also giving this feeling of daylight through the whole building.
Yeah, and we placed 3 of the greenhouses. So here you see the floor plan.
Mm-hmm.
So actually there were 6 skylights. So on the photo here you see them. And on one side we placed the greenhouses. Yeah. So then you get these 3 greenhouses, and then on one side the more informal working is happening. So there's a gym and there's a restaurant there, and on the other side there's the open plan workspace.
How many people are working there? I don't know.
Well, that's another thing. We started and then because they were so fast growing, but it started at around 60 people, and I believe now there are almost 100 people working.
And is it still working in the same space?
It's still working, but we already did the adjustment and making some extra working places.
For more storage also.
Yeah, you see, maybe you should point it to the 4 blocks which are in the middle of the...
Yeah, so this one, this one, this one, and
yeah,
this
and
one.
on this one, where he's now, the low one, there's now also working places on top of it.
Yeah, you see that here actually.
Yeah.
So
already.
what are these like?
Yeah, there we introduced actually blocks. Maybe you can see it in one of the photos.
Yeah, you see them here.
Yeah.
You see them here.
Okay.
Yeah, and they.
It's like a kitchen block almost.
This is like a kitchen block, and the other one is a pantry, and the other one is storage, and just it divides a bit the type of work they have there, like marketing, and so they're all together in one space, but still a bit divided from each other.
Yeah.
And what you could generally say is what we thought was important, but we really want to create a working place for the future and also for the people working there. So the green was an important thing, so that you all day have the connection of working outside and be connected with nature.
Why is that important?
Well, we think or we believe that working in an office is actually like, for example, Google. They make a lot of, they say, okay, you can stay here all day. And you can, of course, do karaoke in the bar there and whatever. But we think they generally miss one thing, is that you miss actually the connection with the outside and nature space. And that should improve your health also. That you really have the idea, oh, this is oxygen what I'm breathing, instead of a climatized office space. So we thought that should really be the lungs. Lungs, is that English?
Mhm.
Yeah, die Lunge. Is that correct in
Yes.
German?
Yes.
And so what it also really does, it purifies also the air inside the office. So we needed less installations when, and there was a bit of a risk, but it really helps to purify the air for the people working there. So in that sense, it really helps to make a better internal climate, and not only in installation, but it's also visually when you have this connection with green and outside space, is that you feel, we believe, more happy and healthy. And we are now trying to get this, to get their figures of is there less people where they call themselves sick, or I don't know,
less sick leave.
sick leave, yeah. And then that we could really say, okay, this place is more healthy. We're actually researching that, but we cannot 100% say that, but we want to claim it, of course.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of investigations around the world that green really improves this.
Wasn't there a study from a hospital in
Yeah.
the north of Holland just come out
Yeah.
where they said that they had a patio or something, and people would get healthier and leave the hospital faster?
Yeah. That's from a colleague office, I believe, Krijvanger Urbis. And I think for it was quite an novelty to do it on this scale, this type of green inside an office, and not only used also as a decor, but we positioned also the meeting rooms in there.
Yeah.
So that people have, they work half a day at their own office, but they have also meetings and things in the greenhouse itself.
Yeah, and if you looked at the program, actually when we started out, the client had said, we want the best office in the world. We're always very happy when people say that to us. And we had this idea of the greenhouses, but actually the program as it is was already not fitting in. So what we actually did was put people a bit closer together to make space for these greenhouses, because what you normally see is plants are put in early design phases, but then when the design continues, it gets compromised and it ends up like this sad plant in the corner.
Like we see everywhere.
Like we have here.
It's
So
not really companies like, no, I don't think.
So what we said is, okay, we're actually going to start by putting people a bit close together.
How do the people feel about that?
They had to get used to that in the beginning.
Yeah.
They had to get used to it, but now they feel the concept. So now they understand how that works.
Yeah, so I mean, you could just end up in the middle. It's like everybody has like 1 meter more space and there's one plant in the corner. But we chose to say, okay, we really want to make this quality and this is what is important. And now everybody has this as a backdrop. So it's not a problem that they're actually a bit close together.
I think we have a small movie which shows a bit of the atmosphere. But this is the outside, of course, with the new tilted facades, and here you feel a bit how it works with the cappuccinos. Yeah.
Nice.
Small impression of it.
Yeah.
And
how long have you designed spaces for people?
That's in our DNA since the beginning of our office, actually.
And when was that? We don't know anything about, except we saw 3 Instagram pics.
Well, Space Encounters this year we exist 5 years now, so we're quite a young office, but we always say with a lot of experience. We all worked in different spaces, offices. But actually, since the beginning, we're busy designing high-end interiors for diverse clients, and we're actually it's always hard to say. Okay, what is our? We don't have a typical style of architecture or interiors, but I think we could say we're always busy with the quality of the workers actually, and always try to or the quality of how they experience their environment. So in all our projects, or green or daylight or doing tricks with outside spaces is always a common, or always
Common trend.
Yeah.
almost.
yeah.
Why is that actually compared? Because I hear that a lot, and I wonder why people all of a sudden are craving for more nature, more almost like spirituality, like more like there's. That's just a gut feeling. I mean, I'm so new to this field.
Yeah. Yeah, well, in offices I can definitely say something about it. I think what is happening is that working is not confined to the office anymore. It doesn't have the... you can work everywhere now. So offices are...
Coffee shop. At
exactly. So offices need to improve to be...
attractive.
Yeah, to be attractive and to be able to exist. So in a new company as Jules, I mean, there's a lot of people working at home. They have to also attract talented people. So they have to have an office where people want to come, because they also can choose to work from a different place. So in this way, offices cannot just be a place where you have to go because you have to go there, but you also have to have a means of existence.
Yeah, and I think it's also it is of course not so new that everybody is busy with their own health. But the latest thing to conquer, there was food, of course, and there was, everybody is starting to sport whatever they can. And I think the latest thing to conquer was actually the way of how we perceive working. And working, we see it in our office. Our lunch has transformed to a very healthy thing and a very social gathering. And that's also in Jules. The lunch itself, they tell with calories and stuff like that. They have an internal sports teacher. Mm-hmm. So the green is actually very logical next step to create this healthy feeling of having more outside space, more connection to a outdoor living style. And yeah, I think half of it is maybe a visual thing, but the other half is really to create more healthy or more oxygen in the office, and more green really helps for people, feeling people better, I think, and we strongly believe that. Yeah. Oh, Siri is.
Also wants to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was just wondering about the numbers, and I think I said this before. There was I'm reading this book on Japanese forest therapy, where there is a lot of numbers that show that people are healthier and even healed when they go to the forest or experience nature. And then, I mean, meeting Judith this morning was, did you also do the planting here, or?
No, this was a different company.
That was someone else.
Yeah, well, we thought of the whole concept and everything, but the planting itself, we always work together with parties like Judith, or in this time it was another company.
Yeah.
But then actually we're also quite involved in that to create the right atmosphere. The idea in the beginning was to create 3 different gardens: tropical, a food garden, and a desert garden. Yeah, now we have 2 tropical ones because the food garden, that was a bit problematic.
Because these plants live really short also.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
tomatoes and stuff.
In 2 weeks they're gone, and then you have lots of brown plants. So if you just do bigger tropical plants, it stays nicer. Yeah.
And I was there yesterday, and they have some problems because some plants are growing too fast, and they start growing out of the ceiling. So they have to cut them down.
They also grow underneath the greenhouses.
And so that's new. I mean, we kind of had now we incorporating the plants back in the offices, but we don't have so much experience on how this.
Yeah, that is really something new. Yeah.
It's growing so fast. Actually, they have to go in with machetes like a couple of times a year to just cut away plants.
Away.
Yeah. But I think it's also nice because at Sony here it was literally organized around the green, and in Sony we said, okay, we want to actually do something with creating the feeling of daylight, and so we made this whole LED ceiling there, and we could actually
you saw it.
We could simulate all kinds of light intensities. And that also was actually quite close to their feeling that sometimes their company is like a stage. So they said if Bruce Springsteen is coming, he should remember this place and not any, because Sony has offices everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a place where we could play a lot with the ceiling, but still have also places to work very concentrated, and that was of course in the grey area, and the green area was this place where.
Yeah, Toon explained that really. I mean, we took an hour to go through all the zones and the different and also the reconstructing that's going on right now.
Yeah. That's together with the stylist party, Jules. David Jules.
Do you know about the Boring collection?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I think it's very typical on how we approach design and also offices in this sense. Well, it's an office furniture collection. The thing is with Boring, we did some offices. For 5 years we've been doing offices. And what we encountered was that we started out, we made a nice design, and then in the last phase we had to put in furniture. And there was no money, there was no time. And all we could choose was this black plastic Chinese desk chair. and you have, of course, you have open work floors now. So you cannot hide them behind walls. So it's just, you have this nice design and then it's littered with furniture.
These are...
This is the pre-collection.
Yeah.
And now it's happening, I think, a really interesting thing, because white was just the state of mind if you didn't know. If you, I don't know what to do with my house. Okay, just make the walls white, and now what we see, and that's for us a very good trend, is that I think we tried, or we were one of the parties who introduced the grey as a standard, as a basis, and that's giving much more warmth and like a very nicer feeling of the white is of course much more contrast. If you put any color in front of white, it is coming to you.
Yeah. You're saying the grey is nicer and warmer, and thank you so much, everyone who knows me. This is I think it's always all about grey. It's always grey.
And did you see? We also made a nice movie here, because probably you didn't see how
Is this actually, sorry to interrupt you, is this the same ceiling as it is in Sony? Because it has that kind of...
Yeah. It's the acoustic seating.
What is it? Because we were discussing it, and
it's actually...
Because it looks like stone almost, but it's probably soft.
No, it's actually paper pulp.
It's sprayed and it's working acoustically very well.
Yeah.
So you don't have any problems here. This is how Bruce Springsteen should remember. And what is really nice is that if you go there when it's dark outside, we said also, your building is also your business card. And you should never underestimate that, because you're going there from, probably coming from the central station by boat. And we should do something that you could really recognize. Hey, you see, that's our 2 offices or 2 levels.
We made them a model also, it's there. It's actually also around the corner.
Yeah.
So to show actually, so this is an interior, you can perceive it as an interior, but you can also see what is it from the outside. And this is one of the most important locations in Amsterdam. It's in the center of Amsterdam, in a 24-hour zone. And Amsterdam is also, the capital of Holland. So in a way, it's one of the most interesting places in Holland, in the tower. And this is what people see from the outside. Yeah. If you're down, you can only see the ceiling. So the ceiling is actually your
business card. And what we think is nice, because normally you have companies have these lines of light, or they have some nice bulbs. But here it's of course an ambient feeling what you can give. Yeah. And it's really standing out in the whole office, so it's really recognizable from a far distance also. And that's what, we think is quite nice to have if your company is sitting there. You say, you see those 2 strange levels there?
So you said before that people can work from anywhere, and today, and that's why, you need a kind of adventure, almost like office.
You need to lure them to the office.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you still even need an office then in the future? If we can, technology makes us, if you give up ego and hierarchy in companies. You can basically work from anywhere you want. What makes us come to offices, or will there be offices in the future?
There will definitely be offices. There will always, when new things arise, they will continue to exist next to existing things. But the office does need to improve to keep on interesting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the monopoly on working anymore.
Yeah, and I think also the people, they have a tendency to see each other. Unless all the social media we have and stuff like that, it's always nice to be with each other. But you only do that when the environment is also nice to come to. And then I think it is definitely something. I think actually the office has never been as lively as this time. I think we could say. Because it is so hard, it is so much improving, and there's so much to win. How cool it would be if you go to an office and you are not worn out at the end of the day, but you are fully re-energized because you've been working. And I think that is a state of mind which now really comes in people's minds. So you're maybe you didn't work 8 hours, but you've been sporting, you've been eating healthy, and you've been in this crazy green environment, for example, in Jules, and you're not coming home and being rude to your kids, but you're fully, you have new energy, and you could go on for the whole night, for example. And I think that is an important function now of the office. So it's not taking energy, but it's giving you energy, and that's something. We would like to also, we try always to design also for that.
Yeah, and we're not scientists, but we're very, we work intuitively. And so what we do with every project, for us it's an experiment to see if we can make that happen. So we do that in different ways. So in Boring Collection we make sure that it's gray and it doesn't attract attention. So the things that matter actually claim attention. In Jules, we made these greenhouses, a center of working. In Sony, we made the ceiling, which is very interactive. Every project has its thing. So, and we learn from that, and we always make the things that we actually would want ourselves. Yeah. We can be quite honest about that. And then we see what works.
Yeah. And what's also nice, we've just been visiting with the office today. We just finished our office in Utrecht for
to show you this
development, real estate developers. And actually, we made all the dividing walls green. So there are no, they start with like a standard feeling or standard. It's a bit like you see it.
So this is the floor plan. So the thing is, in open plan office. Everybody works in open plan. There's almost no closed offices anymore. But the open plan also has its drawbacks.
Which I'm not a big fan of the open plan.
No.
It's actually going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Because people are getting old. They don't have a zone where they can like sort of. It drives people crazy. I think the whole thing has failed. Same as home office discussion should be done, but people are still asking for it.
So the word is actually is not correct, because open plan.
You can see it's interrupted through the.
I think maybe you have some images as well here. Stijn,
So the thing is, open plan is not open plan, because people, whenever you make an open plan for a client,
open plan is not open plan.
No. Whenever you make a real open plan for a client, they won't be happy, and the people who work there won't be happy. So, but they don't want closed office as well. So So in the end, we need to describe and find out what open plan office actually is. So in a way, you need a certain layout. You need to have some subdivision, but you don't want walls up until the ceiling.
And then you also don't want these semi-transparent walls. So, and then what is the perfect semi-transparent material? That's green, because it's open and closed, and it's giving this semi-closing space.
I agree. It's like what our friend Morten said, not the open space itself failed, but the implementation of it.
Actually,
So
yeah.
I mean, we say not the email failed, but the implementation of the email.
Yeah, so what we actually did is the space is technically open. So these chambers we made.
Seating was unfortunately already there.
Yeah.
That's not our problem.
Yeah. So these chambers that we made, they are interconnected. So they have a solid base, which we tiled to get out of this typical office feel. And so up until 1 meter, you can just sit there. And the green makes sure there is a visual connection, but not too heavy. So you're not too distracted. Sounds are being muffled a bit. So these rooms are connected, but everybody has his own space. It's also very pleasant looking.
And if you stand up there and walk there, then you're of course a bit above like this. The green, when it goes up, it gets a bit less dense, of course.
Yeah.
And then there's also ways of you can still communicate to her or him.
Yeah. Here you see how these chambers are connected. Yeah. So these tiles, they also continue in the floor. It's very important to mark these chambers also for a feeling of enclosement.
Yeah. So that's always, and I think it's good what also Stijn mentioned, that we're constantly trying actually new experiments to find out ways of how to improve your office day and work very concentrated and productively, and also get some energy and working in nice environments, of course.
So if I want to rebuild my space, let's say I have 150 employees.
Yeah.
What are the key questions I have to ask myself before getting started?
That you have to ask yourself as a
what
boss?
are the key questions you get when people are approaching you? Like, what are...
Well, that's very funny because
what's driving people?
They actually always start with quite standard questions, and they they have a PVE, and it's a program of demands. Yeah, PVD. Where it just says, okay, we need so much closed spaces, we need so much open spaces. We have flex workers, and we have we want a central bar where everybody can talk. But
so
actually,
they have done their own research in a way?
Yeah, but very poorly, I would say. That's very in a traditional way of perceiving the office. So what we always try to do is get them with us on a story and to say, okay, let's think differently about these closed spaces or open spaces, and think about, okay, how can we improve the day of the workers? And then and that's not about that everybody claims its own position. So actually the first thing we do is say, okay, thank you for your program of demands. We know how much people are working, but try not to look at it as a fixed document, but we should start by finding a new concept or finding a strong identity for the office. So in that sense, if you say, what is the question you should ask your workers? Are you willing to let go the definition of a traditional working space? I would say that's very important, because nobody's ready. Every time we start, when the office is opening, it's like a good album of music. In the beginning, nobody really understands, and after a short time, people are getting to know it, and after a year, everybody is like crazy happy with the place. And then that's also something, so you have to, that's what we said in the beginning, you have to teach your employees also by how to use this new space. It's not traditionally an office anymore.
How do you do that, teach people?
Well, that is actually hopefully through our designs. So that is, if we have a meeting space in the middle of the green, and in the beginning everybody said, but it's a bit cold there. So it's this stupidity that we're used, we work in an office, so the climate is perfect. So in the winter I can wear a t-shirt, and in the summer I can wear trousers, or what's it called?
Sweaters. Pullover.
And that's of course the other way around. That's not sustainable at all also. You should actually have places where, if you have this meeting space in such a greenhouse, in the winter it's a bit chilly, so I put on my extra sweater, and people have to get to know that and have to appreciate that, and that's a thing you have to learn. So our office is not your perfectly climatized area anymore with everywhere the same kind of daylight where you can work everywhere. No, you have to actually bit of conquer those areas and getting retouched, for example, with nature again. That's then the example of Jules. And now after, in the beginning, those places were hardly filled up, or there was nobody sitting because they thought that was a bit chilly. And now it's very popular and people have to write in before, and there are lists of when do you want to use which area. So everybody wants to sit there.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing which costs a bit of time.
It's with all of these new ways of working. I think we're so used to bad design and system ceilings and black plastic office chairs and things like that. That if you give people a new environment, which is actually much closer to what they would prefer, if you would ask them, in what space do you want to be all day?
Yeah.
Without asking the question.
Then nobody says the system ceiling.
Nobody says, oh yeah, I would like some blue carpet and black chairs and then a very low ceiling and windows that I cannot open and no plants, please.
Plants.
Yeah, dry
in
dead
pots.
plants.
Yeah, hopefully.
And bad coffee. Yeah. So that's. But if you ask people, in what space would you want to be all day long? And if you answer that question and then see, okay, how can we make this work so that you can actually work there? And then it's often quite easy. You can say, yeah, well, we have a place where we can put the desk, where you can have meetings. And they might look different than your normal office, but in the end, people realize this is where they much rather...
where they would rather be than...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you integrate employees in terms of interviews, questions?
Yeah, very much. And Jules, for example, we had they have all these groups of they had a lot of workers, and there was the group of what's klankbordgroep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that's typical Dutch names of.
I think it's a small they're representatives of the employees who also are informed. Who are informed into all the decisions. And I think the buildings that we make, usually they are progressive clients, so they always have these kind of modern ways of democracy among
and I
employees.
think also in if you're talking about teaching, then people, if you ask them, they always react to things they know. So it's hard for people to of course say something they don't know, and I think it's one of our it should be one of our specialties to design something which is not there yet, and that's all sometimes hard to convince also people. And because an office like Jules was not there, an office for Synchron was not there, so you get semi-open plant-based walls, and people say, well, I don't know what that is, and they just want walls with doors. And so in a way you have to take them on a journey, and but there's also sometimes a lot of misunderstanding in the things we design, for example. But because they don't. It is hard for us to wat ze overtuigen ook weer?
Convince.
To convince them in an idea which we cannot show on a existing plan. So they cannot. Can we see it somewhere? No, it is not there because it's totally new. Or if we and sometimes we have to make a render image, but then they don't know exactly. It's hard for them to imagine how it really feels. So that can sometimes be a hard job. I think that is a challenge for us sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine. I know Christoph always takes the example of the iPhone. When the iPhone came out, everyone's like, phone without a keyboard, like how's that ever gonna work?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially Nokia. I know Nokia CEO at that time said, I think the Apple phone is really nice, but it's not gonna make a dent. And I mean, today it's like
everybody. So that's how it works, and then you can take. I think the front ends. We are willing to really put their faith maybe in parties like us or other architects, but there's always also a group of workers which find that would find it hard. But I think we're in the lucky circumstance that we have indeed a lot of good clients who.
So where's you just started on your own 5 years is like compared to any other firms not really long. So where's your journey going, and what are your dream spaces you wanna?
I can say something about it. I
Yeah.
have to put the website here. So the thing is, we want to do the same thing, but just
Over
on a
and
bigger
over?
scale. yeah. But on a bigger scale. I think the way we look at offices, you can also look at housing blocks or cities, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So at the moment we're working, I think we have about 5 or 6 housing projects running now. We
So
do
bigger residential.
In Amsterdam or all over?
Mostly in Amsterdam.
Mostly in Amsterdam
Yeah.
now, and we do. I think we have 3 master plans.
I think someone has to take care of your computer systems.
Yeah. Do you know somebody?
You know somebody?
So actually, maybe you can. I will put this on. So this is actually an example we're doing now.
I see it over there all the
Yeah.
time, so that's why I'm never.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
way.
Turning right
That's good. Yeah.
I just turn when there's something on.
Yeah. So this is actually it's also an office in this case, which we built over an existing warehouse. This has a public square, and all the buildings are grouped around it. What we did.
Is like an atrium almost here? Or
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bit something.
So
something
they can
like that,
you can do ice skating in the so it's actually everything together. So it's multifunctional. You see there's parking spots in front. It's a grid, so you can park everywhere you want, but it's not. So it's going to be more like almost like a game. You have this circle. You can do ice skating in the winter, and in the summer you can do just a beach volleyball there. And what we did is we proposed this stair to connect the building actually to the square. And
public.
yeah, and this area here is a public area. So
Public office.
yeah, so
actually.
everybody can go there. You can just sit there with your laptop, and you don't have to pay anything. You can have a meeting there. So it's actually almost like a modern library, but without the books. In a way, you could say you don't need them because you have them. You have them on the internet.
Yeah, this is actually also a new experiment because this is built in an industrial site, an old factory plot where they start slowly building some new buildings. But there's a lot of already companies working in the old buildings. And how this should work is actually some kind of overflow office for everybody who needs flex space. So there's a lot of flex office concepts nowadays. But this is actually the living room for the other offices. So if you need more space, you go here. And what you get is a lot of nice extras and people to know each other. So that is again an experiment, and we thought of it together with the client. There's also a big client, other one sitting next to it. But this flex office for a small city part is kind of new. And it's delivered this summer, so hopefully it will work out the way we think. But
yeah, it's actually kind of it's a really smart building. Everything is oversized, which means that in a couple of maybe in 20 years, there's going to be something else in it. There's going to be maybe housing in it, but because it's oversized, everything is possible in it. So it's not your ceilings of 2.30 meters, but it's like 3.5 meters. So if they want a library, they can build one. If they want apartments for older people, they can put it in.
So it's about flexibility.
Yeah.
Also.
And that's so in that way, or maybe you can even build a park on the roof because it's so well funded. Because it's actually standing over the existing warehouse, so it has its own foundation, which is also oversized. So you can just do everything with it. I think that's also the future of how we should build cities.
Yeah, making big warehouses where people can find their
a flexible house.
Where you have all kinds of spaces in one space, basically, but you're flexible to rebuild and reconstruct. Is that the idea?
Yeah, no, I think it's that, and I think it's about oversizing the foundation of the building, oversizing spaces. So there's actually a lot of, like Stijn was saying, if you ask people how they want to live, is high ceilings and big spaces and whatever. And that's also for the office. So what we do here is actually really making this XXL space. And now it's for offices, and in the future it's very easily transformable to any function almost you can think of.
Yeah.
And that is because there's, I think, one thing we know that is for, okay, the world is changing so fast, and also the built environment. How it is perceived now, probably it's totally different in 10 years if robotics have taken over our way of working and mobility. How will it be in 10 years? Then I think it is no real physical work probably anymore in these offices, but we send our bots there.
It's already on the roof.
Well, I mean, you were talking about you go a lot by your gut feelings and by, you know, by intuition. So what do you not think but feel about what's coming the next 10 years?
I think this healthy thing, that will really go in extremes. So it will be almost measured, and there will be like all. I think in that sense, the iPhone and the technical support is already there. So every step is almost measured. You take the calories, and I think the way how you work, combined with your productivity, is almost like you know this Netflix series of how it is called, which are taken into the future. Help me out, Stijn.
I don't know which one, sorry.
Ja, nee,
Black Mirror?
Yeah, Black Mirror.
I was going to say, MP, what's your guess?
Yeah.
Black Mirror, and I think it is. They have also one of the series is about that everything from you is measured, and that you are also judged by your productivity. You could say so, but I think you're judged by the officers are judged if you want to work there. So we choose. Yeah, but how healthy is it for you to work there? So I think offices should try to attract people in the way if they can show, in our office you get fresh, healthy meals you can sport. There's ways of joining in the green. You can sit by the lake inside the office, stuff like that. So that is, I think, going to be a very important role in that sense. Robotics and stuff. I don't know. That's why we are called Space Encounters. Our general fascination is science fiction. That's why we were thinking of a name, and then we said, okay. The only thing we really like is building on Mars, in that sense. So
the ultimate newness.
Yeah.
To just build something for an environment that you don't know.
Yeah.
So we have to hope that they get there on time, so we can build there.
Yeah. We still have to find a client who can give us a nice design.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Very welcome.
Stijn. That was super interesting.